Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Marianne Petrie. You can find me, my books, and blogs on dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com. And if you have a tale to tell, please let me know. You can find me on dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com. I'm very happy to have Phillip Simon back on. He was last on the podcast, season 5, episodes 17, 18, and 21. He's from San Diego, California. He's a U.S. veteran and a pro se litigant. Now, after alleging that judges, court officers, and state attorneys rewrote his lawsuits, falsified military status, and dismissed well-supported claims without a hearing, effectively treating the Constitution as optional. Now, this is not a judicial error. It's an institutional betrayal. If the courts can erase your rights with a few keystrokes, are any of us protected? I'm so glad you're here, Phillip.
Thank you for having me again. Thank you.
Oh, most definitely. Tell us, I know we've done 3 other podcasts, but walk us through how your divorce proceedings in California turned totally upside down into a constitutional crisis.
Well, what started off as a family law dispute exploded when, the courts ignored first a signed interspousal grant deed and then falsely claimed I had retired from the military. That lie was used to seize property protected and ignored by federal statutes like the 38 U.S. Code 5301. And it just triggered a chain of events of fraud, abuse, waste, forcing me into a federal court to defend the Constitution that I already thought was supposed to be guaranteed to us. So, yeah, it's been a wild journey from what started, from a simple, what could have been passed off as a simple mistake, and now to be where they know it's not just a mistake. It wasn't just a mistake. It was purposely done to create
Right.
the situation that I'm in right now.
From what I remember, the one judge just ran with it that you were retired and you never did retire.
Yeah, that judge.
Yeah, that's another podcast. This is just terrible because, you serve this country and it what's it like watching the court betray that service, all the hard work you did for this country serving, and now you're
uh,
in this position.
Psychological warfare. I'm still fighting a war. They didn't just deny justice. They erased facts. They tampered with my filings. They protected insiders. To have your government pretend you're retired just to take what's yours. And then put me in a situation of stolen valor. Think about that. I did not retire. That's a lot of military people go 20 years. That's a significant achievement.
Mhm.
And for the judge just to arbitrarily say I retired when we wasn't even in there for that part of the divorce, a retirement, and she used that as a leverage to do some sneakier, more shadier stuff to steal the property, which
Oh,
was protected by a VA loan. And and to even get the VA loan, we had to sign an interspousal deed agreement. So the judge just ignored all of that and just made me retired. I would like to where am I missing retirement checks? We're
right,
talking about, I've been out since 2013. That's a lot of retirement checks I didn't get, you
right.
know.
Because you're
So
disabled.
exactly at 100%. And she knows this. But I felt like, well, she knew and she said it, and I have it in court documents where she said, chances are you would win an appeal, but you're not going to win right here. And I have her saying that in an official transcript that's on the docket, that's on the record right now. So it's public. So anybody wanted to go find it, they could find her saying that right now. So she knew ultimately that we would be here right now.
Well, here we are right now on this
Here we are.
podcast. Shame on her.
She thought I would go away.
Uh-huh. No, see, and that's just it. A lot of these pro ses are seriously persistent. And that's how we end up on this podcast.
Exactly.
And, these judges are saying, are they're rewriting your lawsuits. And parents won't understand, people won't understand this whole constitutional breakdown that you're going to explain to us as to, the judges rewriting these lawsuits and what happened and why does it matter to all of us?
So it matters to the people simply because of this. Imagine this: you go in, you have a lawsuit where you're suing your person A, you're suing person B, and the judge says, you know what? I don't want you suing person B. So I'm going to take person B out and I'm going to put person C in. Now, person A has never met person C a day in their life. Just change the lawsuit, the nature of the lawsuit, what the lawsuit is about. In my lawsuit, I was suing individuals who happened to cosplay as judges, but in this particular case, because they didn't have jurisdiction of the case, they were never my judges for the case. So I sued them in their individual capacity. But because the federal judge was ex parte communications with other people behind the scenes, already knew what was going on, immediately was like, no, you're suing the county of San Diego. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I know what my lawsuit says. I know who was on the lawsuits. If you see, and you have some of the paperwork in front of you. If you see the lawsuit, you see I clearly named each individual on the lawsuit. I didn't say county of such and such. I wasn't suing them in that capacity. And what they did was they added this new entity into the lawsuit. And this said because the new entity had immunities, they could drop the case. But I'm not suing. You get what I'm saying? I'm not suing them. So you just added that whole thing to the case. So imagine if you're, like I said, from Maine to Texas to Chicago, wherever you're at, you're in a lawsuit of any type. And the judge says, you know what? I'm going to put somebody else in the lawsuit so I can do and manipulate the lawsuit how I want to manipulate. That's how it affects everybody else. Because if they could do it here and pass it, and this goes down in law, well, then they're going to do it in everybody else's case. That's how it extends to the other people kind of wanting to care. Yeah, it's a veteran going through some things. Maybe I care, I don't care. But most people do care when it comes to their own lives and things that are going to go on in their own lives. And this is going to be one of those things that's going to affect their lives immediately and fast. And they're not even going to know how.
Right.
So
right.
I filed a 1985 complaint against all the people in the state court for doing stupid stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because really, if I didn't retire, then what are we talking about? We're wasting taxpayers' money. We're wasting time. We're wasting energy. This is all fraud, waste, and abuse. And it's been going on from 2021 till now. And I've been fighting it every step of the way. This is what I do. This is my day job. I've never gone away. I've been fighting the whole time. And they've been trying to cover it up the whole time. Now we're at a level where the federal government, I thought, was going to step in and correct everything according to the Constitution. The Constitution makes it clear: the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the 14th Amendment. If I may be missing some, but it makes it clear due process. And the federal judge said, instead of giving you due process, I'm going to add these people to your case so I can drop your case out. And to add insult to injury, I filed an appeal. And then all of a sudden, I get an order saying it looks like this appeal may be frivolous. It looks like this appeal may be frivolous with no legal justification, no legal reasoning. They just denied the appeal. And then after they denied the appeal, I'm trying to fight. I have an en banc review petition to hear the appeal. And in doing that, they did not give me any chance to even argue the frivolousness. They didn't give me a definition they didn't even tell me what is frivolous. And come to find out, that's not even a legal definition in federal court. Vexatious litigant is, which that's not, nobody's discussing that. They said frivolous. And then they said they could drop the case. And then I did another motion, which was a fraud upon the court motion. Now, this is a very important motion. A lot of people may know about this. Basically, this is a motion to where if there's fraud taking place, you can put that on the court, and the court is supposed to stop everything immediately and address that. Well, the same judge who dismissed the orders dismissed that motion. Go figure. And then She finally put in a motion in there yesterday telling me that I have no more access electronically to file anything, and any future additional filing to strike it. So I don't have no. So if I get if I have a whole new reason to be in court tomorrow, she's telling me I can't come to court. So I can't get no legal redress in this system anymore.
That is, that's legal abuse at its finest.
It's wild. It's wild. It's,
Um,
and it continues because that's not the only thing. In the state of California, you have to stipulate to a commissioner. I didn't
right.
stipulate to the child support commission. So fraudulent orders were made
Hmm.
because they said I retired when I didn't, and it made its way through the pipeline, and then finally gets to a commissioner who I tell I don't stipulate to you. I
Uh-huh.
want an elected official. That's part of the Constitution to have an elected official. She tells me no. So
But
I sue her in federal court as a, because I never stipulated to her. There's no jurisdiction there. You can't. But then she goes out. She garnishes my wage. I'm already on fixed income. I'm not supposed to be garnished anything because all I receive is disability. But my disability is being garnished now. So this is a personal attack on institutions that's supposed to protect this stuff.
and she pulled a constitutional bypass.
Exactly.
And you can't be stripped of VA benefits and property rights by someone without full judicial authority, not a commissioner.
Not a commissioner, and especially when I didn't stipulate to the commissioner. But guess what? They promoted the commissioner to judge, and then they were represented by the attorneys who represent the presiding judge, who I'm also suing in this case. Oh, this could be a RICO, for real. Because there's
Hmm.
a presiding judge who I reached out to and said, "Hey, ma'am, I didn't retire," and she didn't do anything. She told me to go away. Basically, I got the letters to prove it.
Isn't
So
that
there's, like I said, there's
terrible?
15 judges in this entire thing. Well, there's actually a little bit more because I had to file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, and
Ah,
there's some judges within that situation that I'm going to bring up on in this madness, because at any point anybody could have fixed it and said, "Hey, this guy didn't retire. What are we doing? Why are we
right,
doing all of this?"
right.
And nobody did anything. And like I said, so the commissioner, like I said, she got promoted. She's a judge now. And her new attorney is trying to argue the fact that, well, she's a judge now.
Well,
I'm like, wow, that's your defense? That's what you're coming with? Like, but in this whole madness, I never get to really argue with the attorneys. I'm always arguing with the court or with a judge. And that should tell you something if you're supposed to be arguing with the other side and you're only arguing with the judge, that maybe this is one side. And that's what it has been. So now I can't file any more things in the federal court at the district level. I've done, it's not a motion you can name that I probably haven't done. Mandamus, and some things I got to wait because I got some things in process, like I got an en banc petition review. So I've done anything and everything that you possibly could do. My next fight is at the Supreme Court.
mhm.
But in the midst of that, it's a crime. And now there needs to be investigations because what has happened is a crime.
Right,
And
right.
there's federal statutes that's involved that a lot of these actors that were part of this should have long since kicked in and did not. And
Right.
so I reached out far and wide to a lot of different entities and agencies out there. I know a little something, and hopefully I should be hearing back from somebody soon in regards to all of this. But it feels like people would like to sweep it under the rug, and I get it. It's a lot of, and you saw the list of everybody that's
Oh
involved.
yeah, there's a
It's a
long
lot of people
list.
involved. And
Hmm.
the problem is, I know them all. I've been living this for the story is there. They can't hide from this.
Right.
And they
And this,
all could have just easily have done the right thing. Even to this day, we're having this conversation. Somebody could say, "Hey, he didn't retire," but nobody's saying anything, and the proof is there. This is silly. I might have to sue the United States Army just so I could get the Army to produce a statement to say that this guy didn't retire. So I could then turn around and put that into the courts who are denying me because they don't want to hear that I didn't retire. Because you know why? It's a simple thing. If you recognize he didn't retire, then you got to say, wow, it's a lot of people who did a lot of wrong.
Hmm. Hmm. Because this did a lot of harm to you. Besides the bankruptcy and all of this, this takes a toll on, your health. You're falsely labeled retired. You know, uh, this lie led to a lot of things, misallocation of assets, tax fraud risks, and, it's jeopardizing your VA benefits, has it?
Yeah,
Or
yes, that's the problem. I mean, it's done all of those things. It's doing all of those things. And that's where the crime, because all of those things shouldn't happen. And
no,
it shouldn't be happening from the court. The court is they weaponize the court. I went into a divorce proceeding and wasn't happy about it at the time, but for whatever reason, it is what it is. A divorce is divorce. We could have settled that amicably. I tried to. I got emails and letters where I reached out and I told them before any of this got started, there's ways we could do this without having outside interference come in and mess up everything. But I guess it didn't matter when I was the only one that was going to be getting messed up. So
so, now this somehow connects to the Stolen Valor Act. What is the
I'm glad you asked about
what
that.
is that?
So that's a new act, fairly new. It's been out for a minute, but it's really more or less you got guys going to bars, getting drunk, wearing military uniforms, trying to represent military personnel, and they don't know jack about the military, never been in it, but it come but you look good in the suit, so you pick up women,
Yeah.
get praises and stuff like
Mhm.
that. Might get free meals here and there, and it's just it's a thing where you're not supposed to be something that you're not.
Right.
And another thing that goes along with that I found out about is retirement. The judge in officials orders, and you have the orders in front of you. You can see where the judge in those official orders, where she says, Mr. Simon's pay, Mr. Simon's disability pay is not because he served and retired from the military, opting to have a portion of all the retirements converted. Well, first of all, that's wrong. I've never retired from the military, and I didn't opt to do anything. So all of that is wrong. And who told you that? Where did you get that information from? Because that's the person that needs to be on trial now, because you're witnessing or offering up information that wasn't told to you, because I would have gladly corrected you and told you, and I've done since that point. But up until then, I would have said, ma'am, you got that all wrong. I didn't retire. So her saying that in official orders, somebody could say, hey, Mr. Simon, we gotta, they could put a case on me, and I would have to fight it. I would win because I can prove that I didn't retire, and I'm not trying to claim that.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, I shouldn't have to go through this unnecessariness with the courts processes with money and fees and all this kind of stuff. And it's just making a case that shouldn't exist. And it's like, come on, we shouldn't have to do all of that. And so,
Yeah,
but
and the
every
taxpayers. Yeah.
the taxpayers, but the crazy is I'm under the gun behind that. So the federal government could come get me because of that order, that fraud, because of the fraudulent order that she could have fixed, but didn't. But I'm still under the gun for stolen valor. So that's what that was all about.
Oh, you mentioned ex parte, because we had been talking earlier, if I can speak English, ex parte communications and these sealed filings and rewritten claims. You know, um, so what about the benefit tracing? Want
So
to elaborate?
my DD 214, and it's a military document that if anybody's ever been in the military, you get when you get out the military. And it basically just tells you this is who I am, what I did, where I was, all the stuff fun stuff, whatever I did in the military. And it lists normally, your discharge, how you got out the military.
Right.
And, if I retired, I would have a retirement letter. I think I would have had a retirement party that I would remember. And like
Yeah.
I said, most importantly, I think I would remember the retirement checks. And I've
Right.
forgotten any of that. So a DD 214 was provided to the courts long before this got started, and they didn't ignore it. It's not only did the courts ignore it, because I know some people might be out there thinking like, well, where was your attorneys? Why wasn't your attorney saying anything?
Mm-hmm.
My attorneys didn't even say anything. They knew I didn't retire. And now I had to fire 3 attorneys. I hired and fired 3 attorneys. And I'm suing them in this lawsuit as well,
Good.
because they should have stood up and said, hey, my client didn't retire. Here's his information. They didn't say
Oh,
anything. And then they fought against it for years, trying to come against me. It's crazy, but you know,
had they done the right thing, like you said, had
they
they
would have
done
just
the
done
right
right. They
thing?
could have said, hey, he didn't retire. We wouldn't be here right now, wasting
Right.
all this money and time and effort.
Exactly. Exactly. And so with the federal court, you know, with these sealed filings and these rewritten claims, how does this affect your federal case? Would you say? Is that going
Well,
to or
my federal case is already affected right now.
true?
I
Well,
can't do
true.
anything. So I filed 3 federal cases that should have been really just maybe 2 federal cases, possibly 1, but the judge kept it as 3. And then she dismissed all 3 of them with the same reasoning, even though at least 2 of them were slightly different, very different, because one I was doing a commissioner and the other one's everybody else.
Hmm.
But she put them together, separated them, and did that to make it harder for me to do the appeal process. And then when I got to the appeal process, they took 3 of the cases and turned it into 4 cases.
Oh,
And I just kept them all aligned and addressed them all up evenly. So as therefore to never be, out of what I was supposed to be doing with the court. And for whatever reason, they said, oh, it's frivolous now. And that's it. No, we don't no legal reason, even though I'm challenging constitutional stuff. And just
mhm.
so you know, precedence is on my side. Legal precedence is on my side. U.S. Supreme Court and the Ninth Circuit have case law that directly supports everything that I'm doing right now. So to call my case frivolous without even recognizing the precedents, only to know that, and it's real simple. Anybody that lifts under the hood in this case and see why they're doing it, well, you see why they're doing it. He never retired. So that's a lot of people that got to keep that going. So because it's a house of cards, because if one of us say that he retired, then we all go. So let's just kind of all keep it quiet and get to a point in the courts to where he can't say anything. But the problem is, it's now a crime.
Hmm.
What
Hmm.
you're doing is now a crime. And you're not just hurting me, you're hurting the taxpayers, because they're the ones who are paying for all of this mess. 5 years, imagine this, if you will. So my case alone, 5 years, over hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars probably now. And if this is just one case like this, you might have 10, 15 problem cases, or what they call high conflict cases like this. And this could be a way of people making money, racketeering. Because if I'm controlling this, now I can control how the money is flowing. And I'm talking loosely for future reasons, but trust me, I can get into the nitty gritty. You want to talk criminalities about this, and which is going to happen at some point, because it's too many players that are involved. Too many oversight people that should have been like, holy smokes, what's going on here? I mean, the courts did a good job of shielding it, but they could only shield it for so long. Now it's a crime. Now an investigation has to happen. And you can't not do an investigation, because I'm going to keep screaming, I never retired, because I didn't retire. And just because you want to mess me over and hurt me and bring harm to my family, my 3 little girls,
Hmm.
you don't get to say I retired and, and then bring all this harm to me and then think that I'm going to just go away. So just for the record, I got some issues or whatnot. I got PTSD or whatnot, but I'm not feeling suicidal. I'm not feeling crazy. So if you don't hear from me in a couple of days or whatever, I got a lot of high profile judges on here. I got some different people on here that probably don't like what's going on right now. And they got money and they got influence. And if you got enough influence to shield the entire district court, what possibly could be the whole Ninth Circuit Court, and who knows that's in the Supreme Court, if you got that kind of influence, then maybe you got the type of influence to take me off the map. I don't
Well,
know.
where's Cash Patel when you need him?
For
Y-
real.
You know? And this legal abuse and this legal war has affected your life and your identity. You've worked so hard to get to what you had.
Yeah, I still have dreams and hopes that I got some plans of doing some film stuff and getting back into that industry. But right now, I had to become a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer, so just saying that for the record.
Yeah.
But I've been I've talked. I have an Excel spreadsheet over 600 attorneys that I've spoken with from 2017 till now. Not all of them about this situation. I would say at least 300 of those attorneys on that list were specifically for this situation, though. And
Hmm.
you would be surprised on the ones that would tell me to keep fighting it, the ones that would tell me, they couldn't help me because I was suing other attorneys. And I mean, one guy told me, it was like, I can't help you because, you'll probably sue me. And I was like, you're right. If you do the wrong thing, if you do some corrupt stuff, you try to screw me over, I probably will try and sue you. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? Or I'm supposed to just allow you to sue me and allow you to screw me over and be happy with it. But that's because people have a real shortcoming of what's going on in these courts. A lot of people are starting to learn and starting to realize certain things through, a lot of the court mechanisms. I was the worst person for them to do this to. Like I
Right.
wouldn't have done on a simple thing like this because obviously they wasn't looking into my background.
Yeah.
I don't know who we were saying earlier. Just this is really boils down to a case of stupidity. But then, like I said, the federal court covers up the stupidity, and that's illegal. So
Yeah, it's very hard. Parents come to me and they say, they're trying to find an attorney to help them with their federal case, and there's no one there to help you. I don't know, I know there's federal court attorneys, but I don't know how they make any money because they don't want to help anybody.
I've called a lot of them. They never helped me. And right now, just if somebody, which I am that somebody, if you're hearing this case and you're thinking like, wow, this, this is a real simple case. The guy didn't retire. The law actually protects him and says, it's it's federal law that actually protects him. And so this should be a real simple case, a real shut and easy case to, a high value case, talking about lots of money. He's been documenting it throughout the years, crystal clear documentation.
Hmm.
And no attorney is jumping at the bit. Even a young attorney fresh out of, I would be like, man, I could break my teeth on this, you know what I'm saying? Become real big, whatever. Nothing, nobody dodging. It's almost like we went to the same school again type situation, or we're
Hmm.
part of a certain bar situation or whatever. So we can't, there's certain things we learn here, but we don't apply it there. I mean, I get the game, but don't do it to me.
Right.
And, don't do it to anybody really. But
Really. Yeah,
the problem
exactly.
is people don't understand the due process. This is if this is allowed to happen, that means they effectively found a way around a constitutional issue because we're supposed to be having this argument in constitutional court. We're not supposed to be having this argument in my federal case. My federal case shouldn't be a constitutional crisis because certain individuals want to do, strip people of due process. Everything is all wrong about everything that's going on right now. And I guess a lot of us don't know enough about the courts and the court systems to challenge it or to even, know where to go to challenge it, and that's why we just kind of bow down to what we think that they can do and the power that they have.
Well, I have found even in my own federal case, if they want to dismiss it, they'll just go ahead. In fact, my federal court judge, Judge Lanzillo, uh, he actually admitted on a telephonic phone conference that he didn't read the exhibits. So the following day, I had to do more paperwork, write a motion, and motion for him to read my exhibits. Then he let a day go by, I think, and then he wanted to dismiss the case. So then I took it to appeals and it rotted there for 4 months. But think about that, Philip. The taxpayers expect the judges to
Hmm.
look at the evidence. That's what they're there to do.
Why you were elected? Well, there's no other reason. Is why you were elected. But I know they talk. There's enough television court shows that get into the lives of the paralegals, the lawyers, the judges, the bailiffs, to where you kind of get a working picture of what could happen and how it can happen. And I get it, television does, fancy things up, but I've been in enough courtrooms myself,
Mhm.
going through this case to confirm things myself, to know when I'm standing in front of a judge, or I did a lot of video conferences in regards to a lot of my cases, and the judge is looking at me or looking at the video, and I'm looking at the judge, and I'm sitting here saying, I didn't retire. Why are you still making these orders? And then they try to play like I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm a pro per. You don't know what you're talking about. And I could go on and on about how the judges treated me and
Mhm.
and it's like, you guys really aren't, I don't want to talk about anybody, but it's a crazy situation.
Yeah,
And
you don't deserve this at all. I mean, what do you hope to see in the future? I hope to see an end to family court with a lot of other parents. What do you see in the future that you would like to see done?
well, what I'm going to help bring about, because I call myself a pro per litigant, but I'm also an AI advocate, and I got to thank a lot of the different platforms. Not going to drop any names right now, but a lot of different platforms helped me be able to learn this stuff as fast as I have, put together motions as fast as I have. I'm just as competent as almost any other small firm out there right now. I believe. I put last 2 years. I know I put over like well over $2 million worth of motions that I would have been charged that from other attorneys. And I did that by myself with the help of these platforms. So I'm all for family court going away. We don't need a family court. We
We
don't. We
don't.
don't need attorneys for it. You know what I'm saying? And it's really, if you think about it, ethics wise, you know, it's the only court that kind of doesn't make any sense to have. If you're, especially if whether you're from a conservative slant or a liberal slant, really, just think about, judgment in its totality, and in the family aspect of it, and then what they do to families and stuff like that. It probably exists because it feeds somebody's I think money. I always think pocketbook. Somebody's getting paid somewhere. Somebody has a benefit somewhere, so it exists because somebody is still reaping that benefit. And the moment that they're not getting that benefit, then that'll go away. And I'm hoping family court goes away, because, like I said, a lot of these judges, and then those judges leave and become judges that sit on civil cases, and then make friends with judges that are on juvenile cases. So now you just and then it's like a network,
Right.
and then you're protecting. And then there's things in family court with the legal notes. Not sure if you're aware about that, but the
No.
secret notes, where judges could write notes in family court, at least in California, they could write notes in family court, and it's not shared with anybody else. And they use the privacy of the family court, because it's supposed to be a private court, because you got kids involved, things of that nature. But they use that note system to pass certain messages, like, this person is a vexatious litigant, be on the watch out for him. And because I have other friends that have gone through situations not like mine, but most definitely where that there's illegal racketeering stuff going on easy. So there's some class action lawsuits that are going to about to push the needle, that's going to come down. People didn't just go away and not do nothing. Some people went away and got real smart, and they're just waiting for a time to strike. And I'm the type of guy, I've been trying to give them warnings from day one, like, hey, this is stupid. I didn't retire. This is going to hurt somebody. Fix
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
I've been fighting it in every court, like I said, bankruptcy court, all through that. And it's almost like every year I was in a different court.
Oh.
And then the crazy thing is, I know I'm not losing because they're beating my arguments. I'm not losing because these are better people, they're better because they went to law school and all that good stuff. I'm losing because the judge is outright just killing my argument, which tells me that they're being told to wrap this up.
Mm-hmm.
Like don't let him talk. And we're talking about different judges. Like I said, you see the judge list. It's a lot of different judges that could have stepped in
Mm-hmm.
and fixed it. Even the commissioner who I didn't stipulate to. I told the commissioner I'm not stipulating to you. She was like, I don't care. She garnished my wages. She messed my credit up. Again, my credit was already messed up from the Chapter 7 bankruptcy.
Oh.
Her putting all that, I can't get a passport. She levied, like literally, they're trying to, Social Security has been garnished. I wouldn't doubt if my VA has been garnished. Like, and why is the VA garnishing my benefit when I'm getting 100% from the VA and they know what my situation is? So that would scream that there's probably somebody on the inside, a friend, that's probably doing something. Well, I could find that person, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that's why they don't want to let me into court, because what's going to happen is at some point I'm going to get back into court, because everything that happened just created and spawned new actions, new court things that I could go into court for, whether at the appellate level, whether back at the district level, whether in whatever other court. Not to say I'm not going to have the same problems I'm having now, but it just allows for more court actions for me to get my story, for my story out there. And
Mm-hmm.
it is just causing more hectic strike on the taxpayer, because they're paying for all of this. It's fraud,
Yes.
waste, and abuse. Taxpayers, I did not retire. Taxpayers, she could provide you with my DD 214, the judge's orders, my VA letters, everything supporting the fact that I did not retire. So if you understand that, then everything else is a burden to you. And if they're allowed to pass this against me, then they've changed case law, and now they're going to come against you. You're going to find your spouses or people you don't like. It's all kinds of situations that people are in right now, and all of a sudden they're going to be in front of a judge, and they're going to be like, how is this happening? It's because you don't have any due process rights anymore. Why? Because they were stolen away in this case right here, Simon versus whatever you want to name it.
Exactly. The people that let these things go and just give up, then it just makes it worse for the next person, which now it's you, you
Yep.
know.
And what's
Um,
now is probably you and everybody else,
right.
because according to the federal court, they told me to kick rocks. The district court said never to file another thing in this court, which is basically telling me, do I have to move? Are you forcing me? Is that a threat to move now? Because you're not going to get any legal justice. You're not going to get any reprieve to solve any of your whatever. So we're telling you to move now, or if you don't move, you're stuck. Is that what it is right now? That's a silent message. People should know that this is how our governments are communicating to us now. And I don't think that's the case. I hope that's not the case,
Oh.
but that's kind of what we're seeing.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
I,
I mean,
I can't stop fighting it because of the stolen valor,
right.
because at any moment I could wind up back in court trying to fight that for something that I didn't do. So I can't
Oh,
stop fighting it for that reason. My benefits, they literally stole my benefits, the best work years of my life, and everything that I accomplished. I accomplished a lot before all of this happened.
I'm so
Do the courts
sorry.
just target people that are accomplishing things in certain areas?
Right.
I do live in San Diego County. I could get into they don't. I can get into that too, but and the numbers and the stuff on that, and it won't be looking good for them. And it'd just be easier if they just did the right thing. But you know why they can't? Because doing the right thing now is identifying all the people who did the wrong thing, and all the people who did the wrong thing don't want to get in trouble. But it's
Yeah.
obvious that and what I sent you in that package called LHS, basically that is the legal harm. That shows that everything is a crime now. Everything that happened is a crime. It's federal crime.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there were people who were supposed to step up and do things about it, like my therapist, my psychiatrist, a couple other individuals from different agencies were supposed to be able to say, hey, because they knew I didn't retire, but I'm being punished. I'm being hurt. I'm physically being, I got three little girls and I got 50% of the time, and they're trying to make it to where we're on the streets.
Oh,
Or they're going to try to swoop in and all of a sudden they take away my 50%. And then I'm the only one on the streets. And somehow they make that work and keep that all within the court under judicial shielding. So nobody knows about that. But
yeah.
I'm very keen on who's who, all the people that I have a lawsuit against. I got them all tracked up, everybody from top to bottom, and all the ones that are not named, but I know they're out there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm tracking everything.
It makes you wonder what happened to the Constitution? Where did it go? Do you still believe in the Constitution?
I do, with a caveat. I do up until I don't.
Uh-huh.
But right now, I do, because I don't think it's necessarily a fail of the Constitution. The problem in my situation right now, it's people following the Constitution. It's people who knows the rule of law, but they're corrupt. Know a thing or two about corruption.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some corrupt people out there. And if you could get away with it for a long time, and they probably got systems to where they've been doing this, where they can do it. I'm in California. I was told in Los Angeles area twice already, maybe once in Orange County, they had to just fire the whole court and rehire, do a special election and rehire, do judges and everything because they had some criminal conduct.
Oh,
We need to have that done in San Diego. That needs to happen in San Diego because I know I'm not the only. There's a lot of San Diegans out there that will vouch for this. It's a lot of stuff that's, and I'm not saying everybody because there's some people out there that got some cases that are, they just don't like the answer in their case.
mm-hmm.
They don't like the legal outcome in their case. But then there's a lot of people that no, it's a little bit more some fraud and corruption going on. And because think about my case. It's been going on for a long time. It's same actors, same people, in and out, same stuff, same names. And then now I got some new federal names to throw in there. It's the same people. And then I go research those people. Oh, you went to this law school. Oh, guess who else went to that same law school? Then you look at the years they went to law school. Because y'all know each other. It's a fraternity. It's a sorority. Mm-hmm. I get it. I'm not hating on that. I just hate the fact that you had to lie on my stuff, screw me over. And then thinking that, nobody else is going to find this out. So now I'm wondering how many other people you screwing over. And if I know I'm not the only one that's being screwed over. So if you multiply that, and if that message can reach out to people, and people can understand that, don't stop fighting.
Right.
It's not the Constitution. It's corrupt people who's doing things that's against the Constitution. Because you notice they're not arguing you using the Constitution. That's how you know it's not a problem with the Constitution. They're not saying, well, hey, here's, no, they're just doing stuff like dismissing your case so they don't have to hear it, so it's not on record, calling your case frivolous, calling you, the person, especially as a pro per vexatious litigant. You know why they do that, especially in California? To make us go away. If I would have kept arguing my arguments at the state court, they would have hit me with vexatious litigant, which means I would have to pay money to even go through the process to be able to argue this stuff. And they know that. And I go broke, story never get out there. System works, this is how it's supposed to happen. Or maybe not the system work like that. Maybe it's just corrupt individuals who found the way to get paid like that in the system. Could be different things, I guess. But, as I'm following it, that's some of the stuff that I've noticed, especially with them wanting to hit pro per people, call us vexatious litigants. Because I think if you have 7 cases and I can't remember the amount of time, then they can hit you with it and then boom, it kills you. But for me, I was able to avoid that because remember, my case started from one case. So it's just one case that branched off into a lot of different things. But it's just in one case, when you look at it, it's like, okay, I see what's going on. Yeah, this ain't a bunch of different cases. It's the one case. And had they just addressed the fact that he didn't retire, it would have never exist.
Right. Well, I remember it made the newspaper where a judge in Erie County, Pennsylvania, yelled at an attorney stating, "I don't have to follow the Constitution." That made the newspaper. So this is like an across the board thing.
I don't
This is
have to
sad.
follow the Constitution. And he's a judge that said that and were able to get himself recorded saying that. Well, my question is, because I don't know the judge, but the first thing I would wonder is, who is the people hiring him to be the judge? Or question
Public.
if he was elected, then
Mhm.
we got to question ourselves on the type of judges that we elect. Because what like especially if he's a judge in a leadership role within the court as well. Because if you're a judge within a leadership role, then you could affect other judges and stuff like that. And now you're like making comments like that. Like, I
Right.
don't have to follow the Constitution.
Right.
But
But
guess
the
what? Maybe in his court, he don't. Is he an ADR judge? Because they set up ADR courts, certain courts that they set up that are distinct, that don't have the power of the Constitution, and they put people in those courts, like mediation courts, and that's why the whole family thing needs to go away, because they found tricks in certain things. I could break it all down to you, break it all down for you, but
right.
they really got a lot of different things going on where they it's systematic, and so I don't even know anymore sometimes.
Well, I think the public should do more court watching. So when they
No
go to
doubt.
vote for these judges, they know what they're voting for or who they're
You want to
voting
you want to
for.
watch reality TV? Watch a court. Just go to and most of them are open to the public. You could go online and just drop in anybody's court procedure and
Right.
watch how the judges watch how they. I witnessed it. I went through court procedures where, especially in my case, when you knew something was funny because all of a sudden I'm in court and I'm looking at the list of the people that's in the court, and it's a bunch of people and they're all students, law students. I'm like, no, that's y'all trying to record, trying to build cases on. I get it. I get the game. It's just not hard to figure out. But they do some funny stuff. So I petition the people, go watch your court. Just sit in there, especially if it's your case. If you got a cousin or a family member, a friend or somebody, or just go watch their case and see how the judge. But in family law, I
Mm.
think they what I realize is, and this is just my theory, when the gavel bangs, it becomes the judge's world.
Hmm.
And everything is assumed for the most part until you prove otherwise, or fight otherwise, or counter otherwise, or argue otherwise. Most people, they don't know this stuff. It's basic logic, rhetoric, what I'm saying, little stuff like that. And it's like, I can see where a lot of people get persuaded by the legal system and then can lose faith in the Constitution,
Hmm.
because that's the overarching thing. But it's not really the Constitution that's failing you. It's a lot of scam, crooked lawyers. It's a lot. I can't tell you how many lawyers would be like, oh man, I would take your case, but I don't want to be sued. Like, first, that's the whole wrong perspective. Like, if you're not going to come at me to try to steal from me, why would you fear that? You would, because if you're a fair, honest, just, but henceforth, I get why, lawyers are rats now. I have learned so much about our legal system between 21 and now.
Hmm.
And I'm like, no, they can't tell me nothing. And I feel like that's part of my fear too, because it's like, I'm at that point where I know too much against everybody in this particular case. And the
Hmm.
biggest key thing is I didn't retire. I didn't retire.
No.
I got to keep saying that because it's crazy. I did retire, and you're trying to, and you won't change the order. If I change my name, they would do that before they would change that. And every judge knows that. All those judges know that. That's crazy. How
Hmm.
do you even argue? Put yourself in the shoes of all those people, and you're on stand, and now the judge is asking you, why didn't you do anything? He didn't retire. Somebody benefited from that situation. And my thing is, how many millions of dollars were benefited and who got what? Because that's all in the racketeering.
Hmm.
Especially if you're, okay, this is how we're going to do it with him. Because my wife's attorney, her cousin's attorney, who became my ex-wife's attorney, Tanisha Bostic, it, first of all, you go from representing her to representing her. You were the linchpin that made all of this craziness happen. Because technically, what should have happened in the beginning was between me and the cousin should have been a simple civil lawsuit. a business civil lawsuit between me and the cousin. But for whatever reason, the family court said, no, we're going to take the cousin, make her a part of the divorce, and then we're going to deal with everything in-house, all out of jurisdiction, and hope that he never gets smart enough to figure any of this out.
This is terrible.
You notice again, they buried the judges, her getting, her thing wrong deep within the order. So they sandwiched it all the way up, and in the middle of the order is because he retired. Knowing good and well, I never told you I retired. I don't know who would have told you that, because all my attorneys know that I didn't retire. I have a letter from on Talking Parent from the spouse saying, who cares that you didn't retire? The court don't care about what you're doing. You're wasting all your time doing all these. So you're talking mighty chummy like you got some special relationship with the court, because they've been protecting you all the way up until even through the child support, where you get everything. You take everything, folks. I'm not talking about 51, 59, 70. I'm talking about 100%. The only thing you didn't get was the girls. But everything, all the material stuff, you got 100%. And just so we're tracking, I'm not talking about peanuts. We're talking about millions of dollars worth of stuff. And you got all of it 100% based off a lie that you knew was a lie.
That's stealing.
And you didn't even come forward to say, hey, you know what? If nothing else, I would have said, you know what? I don't like him. Screw him. Damn him, whatever. But I got to be put on record. I know he didn't retire. So, yeah, whatever happens after that, it happens. And I still don't have to like him. But I'm not going to lie and strip away your whole everything for a known lie. As you know it's a lie. You wasn't in a retirement ceremony of mine when I got out of the military, because I didn't have one. And it's like, and then your cousin backed it up. That was me and her was supposed to be in civil court. So she just didn't even, she paid for it. And then their attorney knew it was a lie. So she's an attorney who's supposed to be bar represented, passing all this stuff on fraud lies. All of these lies that are going through. And nobody's fixing it. New judges come on. I talk to the new judges. Sidebar. I got notices, judicial notices put in. Hey, here's my retirement. So nobody can lie and say they don't know. State appellate judges told me, we have jurisdiction. Oh, you didn't submit anything from the military to show us that you was ever in the military, so you're denied on all of that. And then the very next day, I submitted to them my records and everything that they just said they never saw, which they already had before the court years before. And then they responded back with, too late, we dropped the decision, go to the California Supreme Court to fight this. That's systematic denial. That's purposeful. That ain't a one-off. That's people targeting me because they know the truth. They don't want me to get the truth out. No. And I said, you know what? I'm not fighting this at the California State Court, because at that point I knew well, how could I trust it? They're all in cahoots. You got appellate judges who are ignoring the fact that I submitted military records only to keep the lie going. So they knew about it. And they just was like, okay, well, he'll never get it out. We'll just keep suppressing it. We'll keep suppressing it. If he never gets his message out. But then I tell people, how does this affect you? Well, imagine you in a similar situation. Imagine they just say you're a man and you're a woman one day. And you try to fix it and you lose benefits or something, or imagine vice versa. Or imagine somebody call you something that you're not and you lose something serious over it. And you know it's a known, and everybody knows it's a known lie. And what's worse is the VA benefit is a federally protected benefit. So they lied and didn't even, so federal judges, federal people didn't even protect what they were sworn to protect, the mechanism that they were actually supposed to protect.
What would you tell these judges, these young people coming out of law school? What advice would you give them?
I would say, I kind of feel like, it doesn't matter what I'm going to say, because at the end of the day, it's just, were you born with a conscience or not? It's just the stuff that you have to be born with that's in you that some people might not have. Some people pick up in a lifetime. Some people never pick it up, and that's just the makeup of our fabric of our world. And I would hope that, because, it's people who know the law. I
Mm-hmm.
learned going through, it's nothing to really know the law. It's a lot of, some rote memorization, some systematic stuff here, some foundational stuff here. Everything is different per whatever jurisdiction you're going to be in anyways. All things going to be different. So it's not so much of the practicing of the law. Everything I think I'm talking about has to do with the soul, I guess. And
Mm-hmm.
people who are lost, that's a different conversation, a different situation. Because it's like, it's not the don't get me wrong, you have incompetent attorneys. There's a bunch of them in my case, you know what I'm saying? Very incompetent, you know what I'm saying? Attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
But then a lot of it for them ain't incompetence either. Some of them are smart, they're just corrupt. I'm not calling them incompetent at all, they're just corrupt. And some of them probably taking payoffs and doing it for friends and other friends, and he'll never put it together. He's not he has PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
He's a nutcase. He don't know anything. He's crazy. He's always angry. He's upset. No, you can't listen to him. You know what I'm saying? Look at him. You know what I'm saying? All that kind of stuff. The crazy thing is, you crack my life, and then you got the nerve to judge me how I look.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you talk about the future. I look at it like, I hope something happens positive in this case.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it doesn't, it screams to me that there is no more United States of America and there's no more Constitution. Because I've gone and done my due diligence to try to see if there's still people that's in support of doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
Within the last 2 weeks, I put out more letters and notes and sending off all kind of stuff to everywhere, to where I've reached enough people to where it's like, somebody got to wake up. And if nobody wakes up, then that means we don't have a system. And it's not even the stuff that you want to argue in the media right now with what's going on in the world right now. It's something closer to more American citizens than they ever know. And maybe it's part of the bigger plan of what people are trying to do for this country anyway. Let's find out together. I just know they're doing illegal stuff, and we got to call them out as it stands. And so far, what I know, they didn't change the Constitution. Laws haven't really changed that much in this country as far as due process, First Amendment rights. I have a right to be heard. I have a right to be, for a jury. I asked for a jury trial
Mm-hmm.
because I know leaving it in the hands of a judge, look where it's gotten me. Look at all these judges that went against me. Why would I ever leave it in the hands of a judge? I'm here now because of all these judges. I'm here now because of all these attorneys. And I try not to get angry, stay angry over it. I turn my anger into action, but I try not to, focus on it too much. It's just, day by day. But it just started ramping up lately because they just denied my appeal, my federal appeal, with frivolousness. And now I got to go through this process, and it's called an en banc review process. And it's basically where they to even get the review, one judge has to vote for it, and then if they don't vote for it, then you might not get the review, and it just goes down that your appeal was dismissed, and you just got to do a writ of certiorari at the next level. But if they do get through that little process, and they come up with a panel, I think it's like 13 judges are on a panel. If I remember, 13, 12, 13, it's either 11 or 13. 13 judges are on a panel, and then they all get to look at your case. And mine is real simple. It's not a hard case. Anybody could find all this. It's public information now. Whether you can Pacer account, you can go through Pacer, you can federal, the case numbers, everything's out there, and you can see where the government, the judicial branch, is shielding out like just rambling now, but literally they are shielding, they're protecting themselves in live action as the crime is taking place. They're showing you how their action in the crime as the crime is taking place. They're showing you what they're doing and how they're implicit in the crime as the same crime is still taking place.
Definitely. I'm glad you came on and
Thanks for having me.
been tracking your case here. And just
Get some of it
unbelievable.
off my chest a little bit.
Yeah, I'm so glad we talked and you're warning people, and people need to hear this because it can happen to them. But hey, how can people reach you if they have any questions? Or
My
do,
email,
or do you want them to come through me?
Yeah, come through you. Yeah, that works. Or
Okay.
whatever.
Okay, no problem. Or it's up to you if you want to give your email.
Either or. I need anybody. Well, as long as the gates are open, it don't matter. If they
Okay,
come to you, they'll get to me. If they come to me, I'll get it. So.
gotcha. Well, hey,
But
don't jump off. Oh,
sorry, I was going to say Philip Simon 7 at yahoo.com.
okay, gotcha. I'll put that in there. Okay. Slam the Gavel's a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these courtrooms. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie. You can find me on Spotify, YouTube. Please like and subscribe, Apple, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google, and other platforms I don't know about. Again, feel free to buy me a coffee to help keep this podcast going. Thank you, Phillip Simon, for speaking out on behalf of all of us. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.